Hey everyone, it's Harold4 here once again, and I just saw The Dark Knight Rises, and my first impression is just, wow, amazing. I had big expectations going into this movie, and it somehow managed to meet those expectations, and then to even exceed them. I did have my worries though, especially since this movie comes after The Dark Knight, which for me is one of my favorite movies that I've seen, and this movie is also 2 hours and 40 minutes, so a lot of movies that are that length tend to overstay their welcome, but Christopher Nolan has somehow managed to do it again and has made another great movie. Now, for the sake of this review, I'm not gonna go into a lot of spoilers, so this review is spoiler free. I'm gonna say like some small plot stuff, but nothing too big that'll give something away. Basically, all I'm gonna say is that it takes place 7 years after The Dark Knight, and this new terrorist called Bane comes in to wreak havoc on Gotham City, and of course Batman has to come and save the day. Obviously there's a lot more to the plot than that, but that's all I'm going to say for now. And I'll probably do a more in-depth look into the movie in the future, but for this review I'm keeping it spoiler free. So let's start by talking about Bane, who's this really muscular guy who wears this mask on his face with this sort of muzzle-like thing on his mouth and a bunch of tubes going into it. Now, if you are a Batman fan, you probably know who Bane is from the comics and the cartoons and whatnot, but he kind of looks a little different in this film than he's ever looked before. And obviously Christopher Nolan was going for a much more realistic, non-cheesy look. So in this film, he basically leads this army of mercenaries, and he's this really strategic guy. And what makes him such a good villain is that he tests Batman both physically and mentally, and he really is Batman's superior when it comes to physicality. He really is the worst villain that Gotham has faced, and he does bring Gotham to the lowest point that it's ever been at. Like, there are moments in this film where you're just like, how the hell is this guy gonna be stopped? It gets really bad. Now to talk about Tom Hardy for a second. If you know who Tom Hardy is, you really can't tell that's him playing Bane with the mask and everything on his face. But what Tom Hardy does such a great job with acting in this movie is, since you can't really see any of his face, you can see his eyes. And just from his eyes, you get all the emotions that Bane is feeling. So I think Tom Hardy did a great job with that. Now, I know Bane's voice has been a huge topic of discussion, and even before the film was released, there were issues with people not being able to understand what Bane was saying, but they fixed it up, and now that the film has been released, I know people who have hated Bane's voice, and then people who have loved Bane's voice. I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and there were moments in the film where I didn't understand what he was saying, or where it was kind of awkward, but I got used to it, and I thought it was really cool. It was kind of creepy, really menacing, and it's this weird, muffled, odd accent thing. You kind of have to hear it to understand what it sounds like, because you can't really explain it that much. But I'm not going to humor you with my terrible Bane impression, because basically I know everyone on YouTube has been doing it, so I'm going to refrain from doing that. Now, on the other side of things, there's obviously Bruce Wayne / Batman, played by Christian Bale again, and really not much more can be said about Christian Bale playing Batman than has been said before. Guy may be crazy, may have a temper, but he really is a good actor, and he has played, in my personal opinion, the best Batman of anyone. You know, I know people don't like the throat cancer voice, the "where is he?" that voice. Oh, there I am going with the terrible impressions again. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Now, the biggest surprise for me in this movie was actually Anne Hathaway playing Catwoman. She was just so good in this movie. I loved it. I've always thought Anne Hathaway was extremely pretty, but I know that before the film was released, a lot of people were concerned about whether she could play the very sexy, very seductive Catwoman. And even I was a little bit skeptical, but boy does she pull it off in this movie. Not only does she bring the huge sex appeal that comes with being Catwoman, but she also brings the extreme toughness, and she is very badass in this movie. And I like that she wasn't just another side character that showed up for like 5 minutes. She really is an important part of the story, and I like that because honestly, every single scene that she was in was just made that much better by the fact that she was in it. She was just an extremely likable character. She was my favorite character. She was fun. And what I liked was, for those of you that know Catwoman, she kind of blurs the lines between good and evil. And I liked how they portrayed that in this film. And something I thought that was kind of interesting that I wanted to note was that they don't even say the name Catwoman once in this movie. And I kind of like that because everyone knows who Catwoman is already. It's not like they have to say it. I feel like if they did say it, it would have been forced and unnecessary. So, I mean, it's just small things in the script like that I really liked. So those are pretty much the three main characters in the movie. But besides them, one thing that I really liked about The Dark Knight Rises was that there are a bunch of smaller story arcs that played a part in the whole bigger picture. Of course, there's Alfred, there's Lucius Fox, there's Miranda Tate, played by, I'm going to slaughter her name, but Marion Cotillard. There's Police Commissioner Jim Gordon. And then there's a cop named John Blake, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And the movie's long enough to give each of these characters kind of a decent little chunk to tell their story and kind of see how it plays a part in the whole movie as a whole. And I kind of like that. The movie is very story-driven and emotional, and I even admit at points I began to tear up. But you really get a sense of the despair and the hopelessness that is going on with these characters, but then also a great sense of perseverance. But the story isn't all of it, of course, and if you've seen the past two Batman movies and Inception, you know that you're going to get some huge, big, intense, suspenseful action and fight scenes that'll leave you on the edge of your seat, and that's what you get in this movie. Again, like I said, it is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, but it works because there's so much exciting story to tell and so much exciting action that I didn't get bored once in this movie, and that really does say a lot. For me, this really is a movie theater experience movie, and by that I mean it's the type of movie that you wanna sit down in a movie theater with the big screen, the big sound, and just devote 3 hours of watching it with no distractions to get the full impact. So The Dark Knight Rises is an excellent ending to what is now my favorite movie trilogy that I've ever seen. It's intense, it's exciting, it's filled with twists and turns, it's extremely satisfying, and I really couldn't ask for any more. So, with no surprise, The Dark Knight Rises gets 2 thumbs up. Honestly, if I could, I'd give it 3 thumbs up. I don't have 3 thumbs, but let's just say 3 thumbs up. I'm interested to see what movies Christopher Nolan does next now that he's done with the Batman movies, and I'm also interested to see where they go with Batman from here, because we know they're going to make more Batman movies in the future, and I even heard they're planning a Justice League movie. So it'd be interesting to see where they go, especially after such a great trilogy. So since The Dark Knight Rises is the ending of the Dark Knight trilogy, I was wondering from you guys what some of your favorite movie trilogies are. Tell me in the comments below, along with your thoughts on the movie, and as always, remember to like and subscribe, and stick around for more reviews. Bye guys!
Or perhaps he's wondering why someone would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane.
That was terrible. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry.